Las Vegas, once again near the top of a list no city wants to lead. The unemployment rate hitting 5.8% for the month of June, an increase from May.
So who stands to feel the most pain when the visitor numbers decline? Obviously people in the hospitality industry, but it goes much deeper than that.
I've definitely heard of thousands of layoffs with dealers and just casino workers.
Is Las Vegas dying, or is it all hype?
It is dying.
Tourism in Vegas is on the brink of collapse, and thousands of workers there are feeling that pain most acutely. Overnight, 4,300 workers, from casino staff and hotel employees to service staff, suddenly lost their jobs, and many of them faced the prospect of homelessness. This isn't just a statistic, it's thousands of stories about families, about people who have dedicated their lives to the tourism industry and who now suddenly find themselves helpless and desperate. Las Vegas, which is nicknamed the master of creating illusions. A city can make you believe that just by stepping into a casino, luck will smile upon you, whether you're a player or a server. A place that transforms barren deserts into oases of light and endless dreams. But when the illusion faded, all that remained was a harsh truth. The very hands that built the Vegas miracle were the first to be abandoned. How could a global tourism center, a symbol of prosperity, fall so quickly? And is what's happening in Las Vegas today just the beginning of a larger series of collapses in the American economy? In this video, we'll delve deeper into how the tourism industry collapsed, the people left behind, and the long-term consequences that could forever change the face of this entertainment city. Are you ready yet? Let's explore right now. Vegas was once called the immortal paradise of the American tourism industry, a place where anyone could find their dreams. From a regular teacher in Kansas to a successful entrepreneur in Los Angeles, they all believe that just by setting foot here, Vegas will give them a chance to win big and a little bit of magic. But as we enter 2025, that illusion seems to have vanished. For many, Vegas is no longer a place of memories and belief, but a betrayal of those memories. According to data from LVCVA, the number of tourists visiting Las Vegas decreased by over 12% compared to the same period last year, reaching only about 3.1 million. This number is even worse than the darkest month of the 2009 crisis. Hotels saw occupancy rates plummet to their lowest in a decade, while room prices plummeted to rock bottom. This is not due to the back-to-school season or people tightening their belts. The deeper cause lies in the feeling of being legally pickpocketed that tourists have to endure. Who wants to pay $33 for a bottle of water, a $50 resort fee just for using a window, or $45 for an hour of parking that used to be free?
The consumer looks at it and says, man, I'm paying this much for this. I just don't see the value.
The overload of nickel and dimed charges has made many people feel that Vegas is no longer worth the money. Not stopping there, strict immigration policies and trade tensions have inadvertently become a closed door for international tourists, with an invisible sign hanging right at the border. We don't need you anymore. As a result, the flow of international visitors that once sustained the city has been blocked. Canadian tourists, one of the most loyal groups, have decreased by up to 40% in just 1 year. Even wealthy high rollers from Mexico, once considered the elite players of Vegas, have thinned out due to soaring costs and a challenging economic situation. But what many people find even more disappointing is the feeling that this city no longer seems to welcome the middle class. Vegas was once beloved precisely for its hospitality, a place where everyone, regardless of their financial status, was treated equally and with the respect they deserved for the money they spent. However, Vegas in 2025 has become an absurdly expensive place. Even middle-class families, a customer group that used to be the backbone of tourism, are struggling every time they open their wallets. Some people are gloating, saying this is the inevitable price for a city that deliberately eliminated the working class to create an exclusive playground for the super rich. But upon closer inspection, the truth is much harsher. It's not the hotel towers, nor is it the upper class with their vast fortunes who are suffering the consequences. The hardest hit are the ordinary workers, the people who have served in restaurants, hotels, casinos, to keep Vegas alive for decades. Now, they are the ones who will pay the highest price. If even the city dubbed the stage of the American dream is turning its back on the middle class, is there anywhere else in this country that can keep the promise of equality for all? And if ordinary workers, the silent pillars of Vegas, are now left by the wayside, what will become of the future of a city that lives on tourism? Let's find the answer in the next section. Vegas in 2025 is no longer a dream destination, but is gradually turning into a nightmare that over 670,000 residents there just want to escape. Tourism is declining, not because Vegas lacks bright lights or new games, but because the city has chosen to raise the prices of everything to attract the wealthy. But where are the upper classes? The gambling tables were completely empty, and the stadium built for high rollers was hardly anyone wanted to set foot in anymore. The lack of tourists in the summer leaves a gap that is difficult to fill in the city's economy. And the people who suffer the most are not the casino owners, but the ordinary workers. The people who work throughout the night behind the bright lights of Vegas. When there are fewer tourists, tips also decrease, leading to economic pressure weighing heavily on every meal and every monthly bill. According to reports from economic experts, the income of restaurant and hotel employees has declined significantly. The case of Josefina Heretado is the clearest example. If she used to earn $150 per day, now she only makes $50 to $60. That disparity isn't just a number, it's an entire gap in trust and livelihoods.
A year ago, I was making anywhere from $150 to $200 a day. Now I'm making anywhere from $50 to $60 a day.
And ironically, that's still considered lucky, because at least she still has a job. But for many others, that luck is gone. As the flow of tourists dwindled, revenue plummeted, many hotels and casinos suffered heavy losses, were unable to pay their employees, and were even forced to close completely. Thousands of people who once had stable jobs suddenly found themselves penniless. A clear illustration of this is the Poker Palace in North Las Vegas. From 1974, this place started with just a small bar, a blackjack table, and a few slot machines in a cramped space like a studio apartment. Over half a century, it has grown into a 25,000 square foot casino, becoming a part of the community's memory. However, after more than 50 years of existence, the Poker Palace is about to end its journey, be sold, and close down by the end of autumn. Direct consequences. Over 120 employees will lose their jobs, bringing with them concerns about the meals of their entire families. Not a few people who had spent their entire lives in Vegas chose to leave. A former dealer shared with bitterness, "I am retired and have been residing in the Philippines since March 8, 2024. There is no more American dream. The new American dream is to move out of the USA. I used to work at Bellagio, Mirage, Mandalay, and at Harry Reid International Airport. I made the right decision to leave Las Vegas. The people who once stood behind the spotlight, the dealers, the servers, the silent machines that fueled Vegas's big win dreams, are now the first to be pushed off the profit chessboard." According to a report from 8 News Now, Las Vegas, as many as 72,000 people in Nevada are unemployed, with the heaviest burden falling on Las Vegas, the state's most vibrant tourist destination. But the tragedy doesn't stop at the numbers. This is a prolonged domino effect, where the backbones that once supported the entire city are suddenly knocked out of the system. The wheel of fortune, once thought to be eternal, has come to a halt, leaving large gaps in the soul of Vegas. That image was like a magnificent tower of cards. Just one card removed, and the seemingly solid structure would soon collapse. And with Vegas today, that future seems to be just a matter of time. When the hands that once created the glamour are cast aside, will anyone be strong enough to keep Vegas standing? And if the American dream for many is now just about leaving the United States, What future will be left for the next generation? It's not the neon lights, not the gold-plated hotel towers, but the cold, hard numbers that reveal the true face of Las Vegas today. According to the 2025 PIT Count report, there are at least 7,906 homeless people in Clark County. But experts say the actual number could be much higher, as thousands of cases are not officially counted. Families living temporarily in cars, abandoned warehouses, or crammed into overcrowded shelters. Behind that statistic lies a shocking event. In a single night, over 4,300 workers in Las Vegas lost their homes. They were originally relying on short-term leases or temporary apartments near the Strip. As work evaporated due to the tourism industry's decline, leases were not renewed, rent could not be paid, and thousands of workers were forced to leave their homes. A straight drop from the roof onto the campsite. Just a few blocks from the Strip, where tourists still bustle under the lights, tent cities are beginning to spring up. A breathtaking contrast. On one side is a tourist's paradise, where cocktails are poured with a steady hand and the music stage remains lit. On the other is the hell of the very workers who helped build that glory. For them, Vegas is no longer a place of work, but has become a place of punishment. The metaphor of the tip of the iceberg here is not just a comparison. The PIT count reported 7,906 homeless individuals, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. The submerged part is made up of families broken up by homelessness, children forced to drop out of school when they no longer have a fixed address, and elderly couples pushed onto the streets because their pensions are insufficient to cover increasingly unreasonable rent prices. These are stories that never appear on the statistical tables, but leave a deep mark on the hearts of the community. According to a study by the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, UNLV, the average cost to rent a one-bedroom apartment in the area has now exceeded $1,400 per month. With the common salary in the service industry in Vegas ranging from $15 to $17 per hour, the problem of survival is almost unsolvable. Losing just a few shifts a week can push workers right to the brink of being housed or unhoused. The consequences didn't stop at the roof. All shelters in the area are currently reporting overcrowding, with many places having to turn away new arrivals. Charities describe scenes of hundreds of people lining up for hot meals, while just across the street, tourists were still queuing to enter theaters for performances costing hundreds of dollars per ticket. Two opposing worlds exist in parallel, and the line between them is becoming increasingly fragile. In that bleak picture, there are still tiny rays of hope. Organizations like Catholic Charities of Southern Nevada and the Salvation Army are expanding emergency assistance programs, providing meals, temporary shelter, and job counseling to those who have recently lost their homes. These efforts cannot change the entire reality, but they have at least kept many families from being completely plunged into darkness. The statistics, the disappearing roofs, the tent cities, all raise a larger question. If Las Vegas, once hailed as immortal paradise, has now become a symbol of despair, where else can we place our dreams? And is there any way for a city built on an illusion to regain true trust for flesh and blood people? A city can collapse not just from losing its lights, but because the smallest pieces in the wheel of life fall apart one by one. Las Vegas, once considered the cash cow of the US tourism industry, has now become a prime example of the domino effect. Just one broken link, and the entire system will spiral into instability. Declining tourism is the first link. As the number of visitors to Vegas plummeted, hotels were forced to close rooms, and many casinos scaled back operations. The direct consequence is that thousands of employees lost their jobs, from housekeeping staff, receptionists, and chefs to dealers in casinos. And once the work is gone, the roof disappears with it. Reality has proven that thousands of workers have lost their ability to pay rent, had to leave their apartments and seek temporary shelter in tent cities just a few blocks from the Strip. The impact quickly spread to small businesses. The diners that once stayed open, all night serving tourists, are now deserted, and the laundromats and souvenir shops that relied on foot traffic have also closed one by one. The disappearance of tourists is like removing the oxygen supply, leaving a series of small businesses gasping for air and then collapsing. According to a report by the Nevada Department of Employment, Training and Rehabilitation, the state's unemployment rate exceeded 5.4% in the second quarter of 2025, the highest level since the pandemic. With an economy almost entirely reliant on services, this figure serves as a wake-up call. Real estate around the Strip area also plummeted. Housing values have decreased, but the paradox is that rental costs remain high. That means service workers, the backbone of the city, can't survive. Many people have had to leave the city centre and move to more makeshift suburbs. But this comes with higher transportation costs and a more unstable life. This domino effect also leaves behind painful social consequences. When jobs disappear and incomes decline, petty theft and small-scale scams tend to increase. Children in homeless families find it difficult to maintain their education when they are constantly moving and lack a fixed address for enrollment. The burden on public health also became more severe as thousands of people lost their insurance, forcing them to rely on already overcrowded public emergency rooms. This isn't just a story about Las Vegas. It's like a warning map for the entire US economy, where cities that are overly reliant on the service industry can easily slide into crisis with just one shock. If a city once hailed as immortal can be shaken by a single unsuccessful tourist season, how many other cities in America are facing a similar risk? And when the smallest links, the most ordinary people, are abandoned, who will have the strength left to keep the entire economic engine running? On the press conference podium, statements are always delivered with a firm tone. We will support the workers. We will not abandon anyone. But just a few blocks from City Hall, thousands of workers are sleeping on concrete floors, right next to rows of makeshift tents. The gap between promise and reality has never been so clear. In recent months, the Nevada state government and the city of Las Vegas have announced numerous plans to address the increase in homelessness following the collapse of the tourism industry. Rent assistance programs, temporary shelter construction, and housing first initiatives are repeatedly mentioned in public meetings. However, many homeless workers admit they still haven't received any assistance. Complex procedures, long waiting lists, and limited funding have turned these plans on paper into distant mirages. The cost story further complicates the picture. According to an analysis by the National Alliance to End Homelessness, the cost of each tent encampment enforcement and cleanup campaign in the US can be double or even triple the cost of building long-term stable housing solutions. In other words, millions of dollars are being spent to erase the image of tents from tourists' view, instead of creating sustainable housing to prevent workers from returning to the streets. This is a vicious cycle. The authorities enforce, the tents disappear in an instant, and then just a few weeks later, they pop up again somewhere else. This reflects a reality. In the face of a crisis, authorities tend to choose temporary measures to appease rather than a root cause strategy. Because building shelters or developing housing-first initiatives not only requires a budget, but also time, coordination, and a long-term vision. And those are the things that the current political system often lacks the patience to implement. The homeless workers looked at those plans and they thought they were beautiful, only regretting that they were beautiful on paper. Out there, they still have to sleep on cold concrete. The result was a two-faced world. The government could still hold press conferences, announce targets, and report achievements, while in reality, the streets of Vegas were filled with the sight of people huddled in nylon tents. If the plans remain just words on paper, Vegas will continue to see more sleepless nights, not under the bright lights of casinos, but in the cold shadows of the sidewalks. In this bleak picture, some positive signs still glimmer. Hilton Hotels and Resorts recently piloted a public-private partnership model, offering a portion of their hotel system's vacant rooms to working families experiencing homelessness while they await official assistance. Even though it's just a small program, it proves that when businesses and the government work together, practical solutions can still emerge. Can a city solve a crisis with plans that never leave the paper? And if the workers, the very people who created Vegas's glamour, continue to be left on the sidelines, how long will those bright lights continue to shine? Las Vegas was once hailed as the open stage for all, where an ordinary worker could save up for a night of fun and leave with unforgettable memories. But the picture of 2025 evokes a contrasting reality. This city is gradually becoming a luxury playground exclusively for the super rich. Today, lavish shows with hundreds of dollar tickets, 3 Michelin star restaurants, and closed-off VIP suites are reshaping Vegas's image. This is no longer a place for budget family trips, but rather the backyard of a class with enough wealth for unlimited spending. With prices skyrocketing at an alarming rate, ordinary people are being pushed out of the game, not just from roulette tables or entertainment shows, but from the very ability to survive in this city. According to data from the UNLV Center for Business and Economic Research, the average cost of living in Las Vegas has increased by nearly 21% since 2020, while service industry wages have only risen slightly. That distance creates a bitter paradox. The people who made Vegas famous can no longer afford to live in the very place they serve. The small apartments that once housed hotel staff, taxi drivers, and chefs are now out of reach. As a result, more and more workers are having to leave the center and even leave the city. This raises a practical question. If Vegas continues to push workers out of jobs, who will keep the city's wheels turning? There can't be a brightly lit casino without dealers. There can't be a luxury hotel without cleaned rooms, and there can't be a Michelin-starred restaurant without dozens of workers behind the kitchen. The lights can illuminate the VIP rooms, but who will ensure they don't go out when the working hands disappear? The metaphor of an isolated city becomes more haunting than ever. Vegas is like a place where the lights only shine on the wealthy, while darkness devours the people who created it. If this distance continues to widen, Las Vegas risks losing the very soul that made it a unique destination. A city for everyone. In that dark painting, some solutions are being tested. MGM Resorts International recently announced plans to invest in employee housing support programs, partnering with non-profit organizations to expand long-term rental funds. This isn't a comprehensive solution, but it at least shows that the casino industry, the heart of Vegas, has begun to realize that if it doesn't protect its workforce, the entire system could collapse. Can a city built on a shared dream survive if it becomes the private dream of only the super rich? And if those bright neon lights only illuminate a minority, what future awaits ordinary people? The very ones who once made Vegas the entertainment capital of the world. Las Vegas, once known as the City of Eternal Paradise, now offers chilling tales of loss, injustice, and shattered dreams. From the dazzling lights of the Strip to the tent cities just a few blocks away, Vegas has become a mirror reflecting the deep fissures in a society built on the illusion of prosperity. But behind the numbers and reports are real people, workers, families, and an entire generation who once believed this city would forever keep its arms open in welcome. Now, they are the first ones who have to abandon that dream. If Vegas no longer has room for the working class, then what other city in America can keep the promise of a common dream? And when those who created the halo are now abandoned, who will light up the city tomorrow? If you found this video helpful, please like, share, and subscribe so we can continue to bring you deeper insights into the social changes shaping the future. Your opinion is also very important. Please leave a comment below to discuss together. This video is based on public data and reliable sources. All information and opinions presented are for analytical and exploratory purposes only and do not represent the official views of any organization or individual.